Okay, this part we're going over the medication policy. The following is an explanation of the procedure required by Enzyme Peak Services and the Department of Human Services for administration and maintenance of medications. It is imperative that you read, understand, and adhere to the regulations that are described below. Medication means any over-the-counter prescription or drug, vitamin, or supplement in any form. Okay, so over the counter and prescription. Okay, over the counter means you can buy it from the store without anybody's signature. Prescription means you have to buy it from the pharmacy and the doctor has to sign for it. Okay, so those are two different types of medications. So here is over the counter, and then prescription is always going to be in the orange bottles. Okay. All prescription medications, including vitamins, must be stored in a locked container at all times, and they are not. Um, they are all times. They are not immediate active use. If they are not in immediate or active use, they should be locked at all times. If they're active or inactive. This includes all medications that are stored in the refrigerator. Foster parents shall not leave medications in active use unattended. Over-the-counter medications must be in a locked container. So aspirin, Tylenol, Pepto-Bismol, Bayer, any of these, they have to be locked. This specifically includes substances that can cause death or permanent injury when ingested in a large amount. So yes, Tylenol and Advil, if you ingest enough of it, can hurt your liver and possibly shut your liver down. If a child or youth requires immediate access to their medication, including but not limited to a child with asthma or diabetes, which means they need an inhaler or insulin, the child or the parents may carry a single dose of medication for active use. Okay? Storage out of home. When the child or youth is on an out of home visit, so let's say they're visiting a family member or they're on respite, which means you went on vacation or they're visiting overnight to another home, the foster parents will send only the amount of medication necessary for those days. Medication must never be put in a different container because the person the child is visiting needs to have medication information which is on the container in case of an emergency. Prior to sending the medication with the child to a different place, count and document the quantity sent in the original container and also the quantity returned. The quantity left behind must be stored in a labeled container. Okay, which means you're going to take out the amount of pills they're not going to use and leave the amount they need in the original container. That's going to go to the new home. Storage and removal. When a youth is removed from the foster parent's home, all unused medications shall be transferred to the caseworker or staff members performing the removal. The caseworker or staff member is responsible for the medications until the youth is in a new placement. A staff responsible will then instruct the new staff on the use and dosage of the medication. The youth cannot have access to it even when they're traveling, okay? Controlled access for the foster youth. The only person able to have access to the medication are the foster parents, no one else. You're the only person that has the key, if that makes sense. They cannot, the child cannot find the key in a cupboard. They know where you hold it. They go get the key and unlock the medication and take it. Okay, the key, you're the only one that can have access to the key to open up the medication, whether it's in a lock or behind a door or wherever it is. The youth is not responsible for taking medications by themselves. Foster parents may not allow any other person in the household to administer medication to the foster youth. Okay, foster parents must personally unlock the container, give the medication to the youth according to the physician's instruction, and watch him and her take it. Record the date and time by initialing the medication log and locking up the medication immediately afterwards. The foster parents will immediately report to the youth's prescribing physician any severe or unexpected side effects or reactions. If the youth is asleep when the foster parents are ready to give the meds, the foster parent must wake up the youth and administer the medication as described above. So let's say you wake up really early in the morning because your job's at 5 o'clock, or let's say your job's at 7 and you leave at 6. and the child hasn't gotten up yet to get ready for school, which if their school starts at 7, by 6 they probably should be up. But let's say you're up earlier than the child for whatever reason. You need to wake up the child, give them the medication, then lock it back up and go to work before the child. You can't just leave it on the counter and say, go ahead and take this when you get up in the morning. Because there have been instances in the past where the child does not take the medication. Now, some people say, well, what if they cheek it, which means they hide it in their mouth and you think that they've taken it, but they haven't? That's not something that you can control, so that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to generally see that it generally looks like they took the medication. If they cheek it and hide it, there's nothing you can do about that. That's not your fault. Okay. Second part is some people say, well, what if they refuse? Well, if they refuse to take the medication and you know it's a medication they must take daily because it could be life threatening, you need to call the caseworker, you need to call the family consultant, we need to call the doctor, and then on top of that, we might have to have a police officer come and take them to the hospital, and then they might have to administer a different way to give them the drug if that's needed. Okay. If it's a drug that's not like super life threatening, you have to mark down that they're refusing the medication, and then as soon as you can, you need to call the doctor and tell them why they're refusing it. But you can't just say, okay, they refuse to take it, and I'll just leave it at that and go about my day. You have to mark down on the medication that they're refusing it, and then you have to take steps in order to make sure that they're safe. So with some medications, that means you need immediate attention, and with other medications, it means there's some time for you to be able to take those steps. In case the prescription is not renewed in time, foster parents will call the pharmacy to ask for 3 to 4 pills, which a youth will take until the prescription can be refilled. It is the foster parent's responsibility to see that the medication is renewed on time. This has happened before where the foster parent is not doing the medication, they're just signing off on the medication log, and the youth is taking it by themselves. The youth runs out, and the foster parent has no idea because they're not looking at the bottle. They're not seeing how many's left because they're not giving it to the child. And then the child has to be rushed to the hospital because they've missed maybe a day or 2 days of medication because the foster parent was not doing their job. If you put a youth at risk, there is a good chance you will never do foster care again. You could be charged with neglect, okay? You have to make sure you take care of the medication. Medication is a big, big deal. Controlled access for refugee youth, new arrivals. The only person able to have access to the medication are the foster parents. The youth is not responsible for taking medications by themselves. This is especially important when working with youth that do not understand English or the risks of certain medications. Foster parents must personally unlock the container and give the medication to the youth according to the physician's instructions. Again, this is another thing where we take refugee youth. If a refugee youth is taking medication, they're even more vulnerable because they're not used to taking medication. They have no idea how much to take. They don't know that they need to take it. The foster parents have to be very involved with medication if the child needs it. So there are some exceptions, okay? 2-year placements. If the refugee youth is 18 years of age or older and has been in the foster placement for 2 years at minimum and has a good understanding of English, and he or she can be allowed to take their own medication. They can't take it if 18 or older and have been in the placement for 2 years and we trust them. The youth will mark their own initials on the medication log. Foster parents will obtain written permission from the ensign director to do this. Foster parents will monitor the medication weekly by administering 1 dose at the beginning of the week, Sunday or Monday, and marking their initials on the medication. You need to do at least 1 dose a week because you need to make sure that there's enough medication before they run out so that you can go and get a refill done before they don't have any more and puts them in jeopardy, okay? Foster parents will request a prescription renewal from the physician at least 1 week before the medication runs out. Some medications must be taken consistently daily to be active or effective, such as medications for Hep B and tuberculosis. Yes, there is some youth out there where if they don't take their daily medication, they could die. Okay, youth cannot miss any doses or stop taking it without the physician's permission. In case the prescription is not renewed in time, foster parents will call the pharmacy to ask for 3 to 4 pills, which the youth can take until the prescription can be refilled. It is the foster parent's responsibility to take them to see that the medication is renewed on time. Okay. Dosages. You need to know exactly how many and at what time the youth should be taking the medication. On over-the-counter medication, it's written on the bottle, tells you the age and how much they can have within a certain amount of time. Within 4 hours, not to take any more. Within 4 hours, not to take any more. Within 2 days, if they've been taking it straight for 2 days, etc., etc. The youth do not know how much they should take. Let's pretend you give them one, they feel really good about it, and then they decide, well, if one makes me feel good, what if I took 10? Okay? That could shut down their liver, they could die. So this includes aspirin, Tylenol, cough syrup, any over-the-counter medication, all antibiotics, psychotropics. Um, Psychotropics are medication that deal with emotion and the way the brain works. Some medication must be taken consistently daily to be effective. Again, you have to know what's going on with the medication. Youth cannot miss any dose or stop taking it without the physician's permission. Destroying or discarding medications. You should throw away any prescription medication, usually because they have expired. Take them to the sheriff's office or the police station and put them in a special drug disposal container there and record it on the medication log. Advice can be found from the Food and Drug Administration at www.fda.gov/consumer. Call the sheriff's office or police to find your police station and then secure the drug disposal container from there. There's a big reason why you want to do this, and you want to have one witness with you, and the reason for that is you don't want to be you don't want to have a claim made against you that you're selling the kids leftover prescriptions. Okay, so when you get rid of old drugs, then you need to give them to the sheriff's office. You do not flush them down the toilet. It'll go into the drinking water, which is really bad. You need to take them to these places, and if you don't have someone with you, then the sheriff will work, right? Because the sheriff can mark that down. But you do not want to have a claim made against you over something silly, because maybe the youth doesn't like the way that they had been living in your home and decided to make this claim. You need to have a record of getting rid of the medication, okay? Psychotropic medications. Foster parents are permitted to administer common over-the-counter drugs, such as cough syrup and Tylenol, without additional approval from a physician. These medications must be administered according to the manufacturer's instructions. Prescription and medication must not be administered without physician approval. This is the orange bottle. Psychotropic medication must be prescribed by a psychiatrist and monitored monthly for side effects. Many of these do have side effects and are prescribed at last resort. After other alternatives have been attempted, commonly prescribed psychotropic medications that require approval are tranquilizers, Xanax, etc. Read through those. Antidepressants, uh, medications for hyperactivity, Ritalin, Adderall. For anxiety, Xanax. If there are questions regarding the side effects of certain medications, please ask Ensign staff for an information sheet regarding that particular medication. All side effects should be documented on the medication form as soon as possible. And if they're having side effects and they don't want to take the medication, you need to call the doctor, okay? Medication recording. The medication recording form is a recording form for all drugs over the counter and prescription drugs, vitamins, supplements, etc. So anytime they put anything in their body that's a type of medication for any reason, you have to write it down. Even Tylenol, even aspirin for headaches, okay? A copy of this will be provided to Catholic Community Services when refugee turns 19 and will be used to obtain health insurance for them at that time. When it is completely full, give a copy to the Ensign Records Manager to start a new form. This is very important for CCS to obtain the necessary health insurance for the youth. The medication log is provided to you and must be used whenever any over-the-counter prescription medication is administered. Each and every time you administer medication to the child, record your initials on the chart. So sign down below if you understand these things. Okay? Everything is recorded, even over the counter. Okay? So here's over-the-counter medications for children in foster care and a list of things that Medicaid should cover. Read through this real carefully, okay? If you go and buy a medication that's not covered by Medicaid, you pay for that, but we already talked about that. So this is going to be the youth's history of medication, everything that they've taken, and the reason why they're not taking it. So some medication they take for life, and those will be on here, and the date began will be on here, and the date ended will be blank, which means they're still taking it. Some medication will be on here, and usually they took some and they ended. But we want this form so that we can give this to the doctor, or if they move placements and we understand what medications they've taken in the past, what medications they're currently taking, and what medications maybe they have had an allergy to or have never taken in their life. Okay, so this is going to include anything that you've ever given to them one time, at least one time in the home. Aspirin, Pepto-Bismol, Advil, all goes on here. Start and stop date would probably be the same day for some of those. But we need a history of all the medications. This is the log. This is going to be your daily log for medications they're taking daily. Okay? If they take an aspirin, you're going to write it here as well. So the day, the month, the time. So there's 3 times a day they could take the medication. If they take it one time, you write the time down. And this is the date. So make sure you fill everything out correctly. Okay, so youth name, month and the year, January 2019. Okay, the foster parent, your name here, the name of the medication. This is going to be aspirin, Tylenol, Xanax. What is it? What is it? For what? Depression, headache, pain. The dosage is going to be, let's see, in milligrams. So usually, like, some pills are like 200 milligrams, maybe 500 milligrams, okay, for one pill. And then how many times a day? So they're taking 2 pills 3 times a day, or 1 pill 1 time a day, which is pretty normal for most medications, or maybe 2 pills 2 times a day. Expiration date, when it expires, name of the doctor that prescribed, what doctor prescribed the medication, okay? If it's over the counter, just put over the counter. Side effects, did they have any side effects? Okay. Or what are the side effects of this pill here? Fill this out. There's room for 3 different prescriptions here. If you have more than 3, you're going to need 2 pages. You're going to need 2 different ones. And then here, the time of day. So some medications are taken in the morning. So one's going to be at like maybe 7 in the morning, and then another one's going to maybe be at night. So you're going to put 7 in the morning or 9 at night. And then every time you give them the medication, you write your initials. JR, 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 JR. Why do you need to have your initials? Because when people just write check marks, we could get this form turned in and there's a check mark, and then we find out that the youth hasn't been taking the medication, and we ask who in the home put this check mark down here, and it's not the husband and it's not the wife. Who was it? So if you give the medication, you need to put your initials here, which proves that you were the one taking care of the child and you were doing what you needed to do as a parent, giving them medication. You must write your initials in these boxes. Sometimes it switches. Sometimes the husband does the morning, the wife does the night, or maybe sometimes the husband does 15 days, but then the wife needs to do it for the last 15 days. You have to have your initials in here, okay? Immunization recommendations for Utah foster parents. While immunization is an important health requirement for foster children, it is equally important that families take care of these children, are protected against vaccine preventable diseases, which means diseases can spread from child to the parent or from the parent to the child. And in order to stop that, you need to be immunized, and the children need to be immunized. So in order to make sure that that happens and diseases and um, things aren't passed between the parent and the child, you have to turn in your immunization records. Okay? The reason why this is because someone got sick, a disease got passed, and the state said, hey, look, this is a problem, this is harmful. We need to put steps involved with foster care to make sure that the youth are saved from these problems and the families saved from these problems. Okay? So children already living in the foster home should be up to date with the recommended vaccinations based on their age. If they're really young, like a baby, they don't get fully vaccinated till they're, I think, maybe 1.5, 2 years old. So babies are really rough for foster care because they're not immunized. If you have someone in your home that is not immunized, we can't place an unimmunized youth into your home because they could pass what they have to your family. Proof of immunity to measles, mumps, and rubella is recommended for staff of licensed group and family child centers. Okay. Varicella vaccine is recommended for those who do not have documentation of age-appropriate immunization, a reliable history of varicella disease, physician diagnosed or personal recall, or serologic evidence of immunity. Federal Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, regulations require some employers to offer hepatitis B vaccine to group homes staff who responsible include first aid. All adults should receive a single dose of Tdap, especially those who have close contact with infants less than 12 months of age. There is no minimum interval between Tdap and previous dose of TD. Okay. So these are the recommended immunization for foster care families. Vaccine, person born before 1957, person born in or after 1957. So if you were born after 1957, which is a lot of people, okay, then the MMR2, measles, mumps, and rubella, needs 2 doses of MMR at least 1 month apart. Everyone else is going to have varicella 2 dose, hepatitis A 2 dose, hepatitis B 3 doses, TD and Tdap 1 dose, and then a TD booster every 10 years. Influenza, annual influenza vaccine is recommended for everyone 6 months of age and older. So this is the immunization policy and intent. You're going to put your name up here, and then the foster parents will provide verification to Ensign of the Utah Department of Health recommended immunization according to the age of each adult and child residing in the foster home. This will be added to the medical clearance form required of each new foster parent. If compliance of all residents in the home cannot be verified, the foster care license shall be restricted only to placements of children who are over the age of 2 months and who are immunized in accordance with the Utah Department of Health recommendations for their age. So like we were talking earlier, you can't take a child if you're not immunized that has not been immunized as well. If the foster family cannot verify or does not want to verify immunizations of residents, they will complete and sign the statement of intent below indicating that they understand that this immunization will be placed, this limitation will be placed on their foster care license with Ensign. So here, statement of intent. We or I are stating our intentions below in regards to the new immunization policy. We intend to provide a record of immunization for each member of the family before the youth is placed. If you decide you're going to give us your immunizations, you check that. If you're not going to give us your immunizations, then you check this. We do not wish to or cannot provide immunization records at this time. So if you don't have your immunization records, see if you can find them from the health department. The health department keeps the records of those. Or your doctor. If the health department can't find it or your doctor doesn't have it, then you'll do them again. You'll get re-immunized, and then you'll be good to go. I've had parents that have had to wait quite a while to get re-immunized in order to take foster kids, okay? So either you're going to provide it or you're not. So you check one of these and then you sign and date, okay?